Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm 𝗟𝘂𝗿 and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out, and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, it is an absolute pleasure to be speaking with 𝗨𝘂𝗿𝗄𝗆. Laura, you are a celebrity psychic who has been featured by major television, magazines and many other media outlets. You are an avid writer, having published 8 books so far. You are also an actress, model, producer, business coach and speaker. You are a veteran podcaster and your top-rated show Healing Powers podcast focuses on healing spirituality. Ever since you were a child, you have seen and sensed ghosts and spirits, and you have learned how to manage those experiences using this ability to connect with the other realms. You now use your experience communicating with angels and spirits to help your clients better understand and change their lives. Laura, it's an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. What a fascinating story that I feel that I'm about to hear.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a kind of an unusual beginning, and I've always known I was different, and I've always known about the other side because my first memory is actually from before I was born. So I've always known there was something more than just this life. But at the same time, it was all very confusing to me. I didn't get born into a family where this was a thing. And so I grew up thinking maybe I was crazy. This is not too uncommon with people with these types of abilities. And I basically just kept it to myself and just tried to live my life, trying to blend in as well as I could with others. And then fast forward many years, and I had an experience where a family friend described a ghost that I had seen but never told anyone about. And this was very life-changing for me because it confirmed I wasn't crazy, like someone else can't see a hallucination of mine. But it was also a bit scary for me because I didn't really know what to do about it. The internet was there, but it was not as developed as it is now. So I didn't really know how to go about, getting training or more deeply understanding my abilities. So I tried to block it out. And then after blocking it out, I lived my life very analytically and had initially some success, but then the longer I went on that path, the more I struggled, and everything came to a head for me during the recession when I was physically ill. My contract position that I had with the University of Washington ended and I couldn't find a job. I'd never been unemployed in my whole life. Ever since I started working, I'd always had work. I couldn't find a job. I was physically ill. And I went to a psychic to try to just get guidance because I was really stuck in my life, all the areas of my life that you want to be good, love, health, relationships, finances, career were all bad. And in that process, she helped me understand my abilities and that I needed to open back up to them. So my master's degree is in political science. Like, this is not a path that I had initially laid out for myself. But as I started to take classes, it became clear that this was something that I was good at. People started to ask me for readings because as part of the training, to tap into my intuition, I would do readings for people. And it just kind of developed from there. So here I am, many years later, and this is my main profession. I also am a creative entrepreneur. I've always been creative since I was a child. And tapping into my intuition and abilities has really just helped my creative work as well. So I'm passionate about how people understand about it, especially those that don't understand the drum, because it's not something that's known in the mainstream. And then also helping people understand how to tap into it for themselves, how everything connects, and then how to basically live the best life that they can using their creativity and their intuition.
I think when I gave that short introduction of you in the beginning, of course, it's very difficult to do justice to this kind of versatility of different things that or different aspects of your life that you have gone with, from political sciences and higher education to being a psychic. It's completely so many, different things. There was one thing you said about when you were a child that you were keep things to yourself, that you would,
Yes.
and then block it off. I can only imagine how that felt. I mean, it is a feeling of being different in a way, but do you want? I want to hear a little bit more about that period, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I am clairvoyant, which means I see spirits. I see now angels as I've learned to connect with them, non-physical beings, things that a lot of other people don't see. I see even things that are so strange sometimes. Like sometimes I see people's physical illnesses before they happen. Like they look to me like they're currently on the body, but they haven't happened yet. So growing up, it was just very confusing because I was constantly saying things about something that other people couldn't see and just feeling confused about, like, why can't they see it? It must be me. That's if everyone else that doesn't perceive something, you start to think something's wrong with you. So that was my perception, and it took many, many years before I realized that it wasn't that I was crazy or that I was seeing things that weren't there. They were just maybe not physical things. And so once I understood that and accepted it and started to get training, things opened up for me. And I really firmly believe that whatever makes us unique is actually our power. It's something that is for us to embrace, whatever that is. It's not everyone's going to be this, what I'm talking about for myself, but this idea that we need to conform or kind of become like everyone else, or just be blend in. And especially as an adolescent, it's so hard. Everyone just wants to do that. But I really believe that we are all unique. And the more we embrace our uniqueness, the more we step into our power. And also the more we benefit the world, because I don't believe we have extra parts. We don't have something that's just randomly in there. And I have many things in my experience that, although these things might seem like they don't go together, they have come together in such a way that I'm uniquely a fit for certain opportunities. So recently, for example, I was on Will Ferrell's podcast, the actor and comedian, and it was an improv show. And I used to make my living as an actress. I did improv for years. I also am a podcaster. So it was a podcast where I was improvising with him, talking about my psychic work, but it's a comedy show. So all these bits and pieces that seem so disconnected from each other, and yet it came together in this amazing way for me to have this opportunity. So I think there's always going to be opportunities like this for us, no matter how strange, it seems that our different areas are, where it can come together in this really beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think inevitably this conversation is going to jump around a lot. So, but
yes.
Can I ask you, Laura, with your knowledge and experience, why do you think that most people are not able to see the paranormal or the other realms? Why is it a privilege of very few people?
I think that a lot of people actually have some abilities. I think everyone has some, and then with some others, it's quite strong. And it manifests in different ways for different people. So in my case, I'm clairvoyant, which means I see. I'm also an empath, which means I feel other people's energies and emotions from outside my body, in my body, other people's pain, other people's emotions, etc. Some people are claircognizant, which means they just know things that they don't know how they know. Some people may get information through touch, like they pick something up and they receive information that way. So everyone receives differently, but most people don't even understand that this is a thing. They don't know the different ways it can occur. They don't get training. So, for example, there's many people that have incredible artistic ability, but what if they never had a pencil or a pen or paints or access to teachers? How would they know what abilities they had? So I feel that this area is like that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about teaching it, because if you have these abilities, they really can help you in your life if you know how to access them and have healthy boundaries with it.
And is there a way to access those abilities, do you think?
Yeah, so absolutely. So there's many different teachers out there. I teach classes on psychic training. I have a 6-month program that I'm be launching soon, and I do one-off classes. Learning and understanding about the psychic and spiritual realm and intuition is also extremely important. So just to understand the world as a whole. So if you've never done that, I highly recommend reading books, watching videos, and that sort of things. And you can actually learn somewhat even from some fictional things. There's movies I reference all the time just to help people understand my abilities, like the Sixth Sense, that the little kid, 𝗵𝗫𝗄𝗏's character, I was like that. I saw ghosts that looked like solid people to me as a child, or Ghost, when Patrick Swayze's character goes into Goldberg's character, like this kind of thing happens, so that, watching supernatural shows and movies can sometimes provide a little bit of insight, but the best thing is to take classes for yourself, learn about how these abilities manifest, and then practice, because like many things, unless you try it yourself, you don't really know what you're capable of. And most people have never tried. And I teach all the time with students who are just kind of curious, and they don't necessarily think they're particularly gifted, and they certainly wouldn't think of doing this for work. And it happens so frequently. They get into class, and once they have the training and support, they realize that they're extremely psychic. And it's a really empowering thing to be able to tap into your abilities. And also, it often will help clarify things that people have experienced and not really understood in their past.
It's, I agree, it's extremely empowering when you realize your own gift, your superpower, be it a psychic or any kind of unique gift that you bring to the world. It could be creativity, or you could be an exceptional parent. But the moment you realize that and put it out to the world, that's really connecting with what we're meant to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there's so many different things, different ways that we're all built, both in terms of our minds and our bodies. There's a really interesting show, if you want to dig into just how different we all are. It's a show called *Superhumans*, and it's executive produced by Stan Lee, who was the creator of Spider-Man and many different comic books. And it features people that have unusual abilities, and they actually study them and try to figure out, like, how do they even do some of these things? So I think it's fascinating to look at the breadth of human experience and abilities, and that once we expand our mind into what's possible, that's when we can do more. So exploring this, I think, is very important.
Exploring, and you use the word curiosity, or being curious and about things, and I completely agree. Laura, I wanted to discuss a topic which I think I love it, and it's something that maybe is not as well understood by the majority of people, and that's intuition. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but most people are not really in tune with their intuition. So do you want to give me your view on that, or what is intuition, and maybe if there are some ways to really tune into it more?
Sure. So yeah, intuition is, I think, our higher self, our soul, communicating with us. And one of the primary ways that this happens is actually through our body. And so one of the most powerful things we can do to tap into our own intuition is to learn to listen to our body and to actually optimize our health. So my podcast, Healing Powers Podcast, is a mind, body, spirit podcast. And I talk about all of these things because I don't believe you can be very tapped in and in tune, for example, to use your intuition very easily if your gut health is messed up, for example. So it's important to learn to connect and be as healthy as you can, to have time and space in your life. So when we are very busy, it's hard for us to really pay attention to our bodies, to any messages that we get intuitively. A lot of messages of our intuition will come in through our thoughts and feelings, just an initial idea that comes in. But if our mind is really busy, if we're active all the time, watching TV, watching the news, always have some kind of chatter in the background, it's really hard to listen and hear ourself or the message from our angels and spirit guides. So that's the first thing I suggest, is just for people to make sure they have some kind of unstructured time, whether that's formal meditation, whether that's taking for a walk or taking a bath. What works for different people is not the same, but it's important to have that. And then literally exercise is something that comes up frequently for people, making sure you're eating well. There's certain things that block psychic abilities. Alcohol can be, depends on the person, but at least in certain quantities, caffeine, and sugar are a few that come up. So eliminating or reducing those things, not only are they good for your health, but they're also really helpful if you want to tap into your intuition at a higher level. And then, as I mentioned before, just taking classes and learning about the different ways that abilities manifest, so you can start to think about your own experience and what you might have experienced as well.
Thank you. I want to stay to this intuition topic a little bit longer. And,
Sure.
you know, from once you actually have a message, you feel that your intuition is telling you something, there is still one more step, is to really trust in it and actually follow
Yes.
it. So listening or hearing your intuition is one thing. Trusting it and following the message it brings is another. So I wanted your thoughts on this second part as well, please.
Yeah, I think that is one of the hardest things for us to do, because frequently we will get a message from our intuition that doesn't make sense logically, or in fact is counter logical, like even the opposite of
Yes.
what our logical mind would tell us. And what I encourage people to do is try it, and especially on something where it's not a big deal to try it. Just try it, practice. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, and faith, I believe, is like a muscle too. That when you have faith and you believe and you take these action steps on that faith, it's rewarded, and then you can go at bigger and bigger levels. And so once you've done it and it's confirmed for you that it works, it becomes more easy to trust. So I do things on faith now that I think would drive people crazy like that. In fact,
Give me an example.
I used to play poker for money, using my psychic abilities. And I didn't play the odds or anything. I literally would just feel what I got and then make bets. And I, do things like play my way into a championship tournament where, but as an example, in terms of, real life example.
Did you manage to win that, by the way?
I didn't win, but I got about halfway through the tournament, and then it got very intense because these were like professional players, and there was a lot of intense energy, and then it became not fun. Like for me, I was just kind of,
Okay.
playing for fun. And this was at a casino in Mexico. Anyway, so there came a point where I also was like, I don't know if this is the safest thing for me to continue. And I don't really gamble anymore, but it was a fun thing for me to experience and kind of practice using my abilities. But I have some real life examples, especially some of these bigger things that were a big leap for me. So 2 examples. One, when I had first been going through my divorce, and I was during the recession, I didn't have a job. And I decided to get my TEFL certificate to teach English as a foreign language and go live abroad, because I had not been able to find work in the United States. And so I got the message to take my classes in Spain. And so I thought, okay, but I didn't have money. I had about $500 to last for accommodation and food and everything for 5 weeks, which is not enough, obviously. But the message was so strong, and I just had this incredible visitation experience from the angels. So I took that leap and made my plans. And then shortly after I arrived, I had a lump sum of money that just, came into my life, and it was completely unexpected. And, that helped me with that faith. So that was one example. And then later, after I had gone and had lived in China, and I came back to the United States, and was really starting from scratch. So looking for work, trying to get some consulting, and I had gotten the message to start doing this work as a psychic. And I got the message to take this psychic training course, and it was a lot of money for me at the time. It was $10,000, and I didn't have a regular source of income, and I didn't have money in the bank. And I did thankfully have a credit card. And I just, on faith, put the course fee and the travel and everything, which is about $10,000 total, on a credit card with no money to pay it. And it was, I was rewarded. I did it. And then I did, really work at my business and put myself out there. And the hardest part, I think, was the fear of putting myself out there in this new area. I mean, and again, my master's degree is in political science. This was a big leap for me, but I know that because I took that course and I did get some tools, but also I moved forward in faith, it came back to me many times. And if I had not done that, I would have, I think, struggled for even longer financially.
Yeah, that's it's a big leap of faith that sometimes is needed, and I hear that, and I've experienced that myself also financially when you don't seem to have the funds to do what's really meant to be your next step. And I've been in both situations, taking the plunge and not, and then facing the consequences of my decision. So it's always. Interesting to reflect on what happens whether you follow the intuition or not follow it.
And yeah, even an example where I took the course, I actually had gotten the message to take it a year earlier, but I was scared and I didn't. And basically that whole year, I just continued to struggle. And so I think the second time when it came around, I was like, well, this is whatever I'm doing isn't working. So I'm going to try it. So sometimes it is helpful when we have those experiences where we don't listen and we continue to not have success. I really believe that the world is in many ways very much like a Netflix queue. I don't know if you watch Netflix. Do you watch Netflix or do you know how it works?
Sometimes, yes. Yes.
So basically, whatever you watch, you get more of that in your queue. Like there's this algorithm, and I think the universe is like that. Whatever we engage with, we get more of that. So if we're engaging in something that is a leap of faith, but we're moving forward, and that it'll be rewarded, and we keep kind of leveling up. If we are making a choice that is in a kind of fear state, then we often will get sent more of that energy. So it's really important for us to really be aware of what it is that we're choosing, and just realize that unless we decide to change the pattern, we're likely to get more of the same moving forward.
It's a great way of putting it. The algorithm of the universe.
It is, and there's I'm not religious, but there's this quote from the Bible, and it's something like I'm not going to quote exactly, but he who has none, even that will be taken away, and he who has will have even more. And I don't believe this is about like a punishment or anything. It's literally because of how we feel and the choices that we make that this happens. So I believe that this is a statement about the metaphysical, basically. So it's very important for us to be in a place of gratitude and faith when we move through our life. And when we do that, it is like magic unfolds. And I have a pretty incredible life. I just in the process of getting a second home in Las Vegas, and I travel when I want to, typically, obviously less so with COVID, but I've work with celebrities, and I'm very creative, and I just kind of create the lifestyle that I want to. I don't get up early because I don't like to get up early. I make my own hours, and we all have this ability to create that for ourselves. Now, whatever someone else chooses is probably going to be very different than what I choose, but I'm just stating that we all can do this. And even if we're told otherwise, and oftentimes we are told by society, told by our families, friends, and in many cases, people that are well-meaning, but that's what they've been taught. And so that's what they're experiencing, because again, if that's what you believe, if that's what you put forward, then you will receive more of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Laura, I wanted to ask also your thoughts on manifestation, because I think it's relevant to what we have been discussing about, our vibration and attracting more of what we check out the algorithm. So, share with me some of your insights on manifestation. I know that you are quite capable one yourself, so share some of your secrets with me, please.
Yeah, so some of the things I've been talking about now, paying attention to the intuitive messages that you get, because your intuition is basically trying to make life easier for you. It's trying to prevent pain and things that are, causing you difficulty. And it's trying to help you with bringing more of the good things in your life. So when you listen to those messages, good things come. And when you don't listen, you may have more struggle. And I've had many examples of both cases where I listened and wonderful things happened, and where I didn't listen and really bad things happened, from like my car being stolen to, getting pulled over by police, to, wonderful, incredible experiences in my life and work and career. And I'll give an example of that. When I was just started my business, I got the message to give readings at a local coffee shop, and I really didn't want to do it. I was just recently, I call it coming out of the psychic closet, meaning I had recently told people that I was psychic, and I was still a little bit uncomfortable with it. And so the idea of doing this publicly was a bit unpleasant and a little scary for me, but the message to do it was so strong. And I had been asking the universe, angels, et cetera, for help with growing my business and increasing my finances. But the message was so strong. So finally, after some resistance, I put up a flyer in the window. My friend owned the coffee shop, so she said, yes, go ahead. And the first day that I was scheduled to do the readings, the managing editor of the local newspaper called and asked if he could write a story about me. And 2 days later, there was a story in the regional newspaper with me with a color photo describing me and my work. And literally my phone started to ring with clients and business. So I'm bringing this story up because I listened, and a lot of times the things that are coming from what we're guided to seem to not be connected. Like, it wasn't about doing readings at the coffee shop. It was about the news story for me. And it was about getting clients. But that was just the easiest avenue. And it came so fast and easily once I listened to the message. So I think we all can do that. And then the other thing is to ask for help. So for whatever your spiritual beliefs are, the universe, I work a lot with angels, your ancestors, but just whatever that is for you. If there's any religious beings, just ask them for help. Ask them for help on your path for anything specific that you're looking for, and also to be specific. So in many cases, when people are trying to manifest something, they're not clear, meaning they're not specific. So it is in a lot of ways like placing an order with the universe, or a restaurant. So, when you go to a restaurant, you wouldn't say like, I just want some food. Like, you could get anything, right? I'll give an example. When I was a vegetarian, I remember I asked for something vegetarian and I got a plate of green beans. Like, that's it. That was all it was. Like, that was my meal, with green beans. That's not what I was looking for, but that's what I got. So we need to be clear with the universe in terms of what we're asking for, and then pay attention to the intuitive urges that we get, which are like steps towards our requests, our desires. And then we also, this is a step that sometimes people miss, we need to let go of things that are unaligned with what we're asking for. So for example, maybe we want a better relationship, but we're not letting go of the unhealthy relationship that we're in. It's just a lot harder. So we may get messages about things to release, and these things may or may not be directly connected. So it could be letting go of a relationship to have a better relationship. Or in my case, there were many things I was trying to manifest at one point, and I had been getting the message to stop drinking. And it was just a real struggle to bring some things in. And as soon as I stopped drinking, a bunch of things came in that I had been trying very hard to create. And so in my case, that was because drinking was becoming increasingly unhealthy for me. And I had been a heavy drinker before, so I want to say that as well. So this was the message that was for me at that particular time. But whatever that is for you, what messages you're getting about releasing things that are blocking your manifestations, that's a very important step as well.
What you said just made me wonder, why do we sometimes really get stuck on that, and we don't go past, even though we know that it's not the right thing for us, and we get these messages, and we kind of know that in our intuition tells me that I shouldn't be doing this, yet we still keep banging our head against the wall until, I don't know, until the time comes to let go, I suppose.
I think some of it is it's about patterns and what's comfortable and familiar, and it's something we know, and frequently it has to get to a point of extreme discomfort, and sometimes that might be past this lifetime. There are many people that are still experiencing something, and they're going to do it, they're literally going to die doing it until on a soul level they learn. So we just have to get to a point where we're ready to let go of whatever that is. And I think it's important to say that everyone's on a different place in their path, and it's not for us to try to force someone or say that they're wrong. It's just for us in our path to focus on ourselves. I think sometimes there's a struggle to believe that we could have something better. So, for example, with alcohol, there were things about it that I thought brought me good things. But then once I let it go, I realized how many much better things were waiting for me once I did let that go. And it helped me see things more clearly. So in particular, as it relates to alcohol, I mean, it literally impacts your brain. It impacts your decision-making ability. It impacts your memory, many different things that are happening as a result of drinking. And so it was about my energy. It was about my intuition, because one of the mechanisms that you use for your intuition and psychic abilities is your brain. The third eye, believed to be in the pineal gland, also your gut, which is also damaged by alcohol. So by releasing that, I was able to intuit better. I was able to feel better. I had less energy that was lost to, alcohol, Sundays or whatever day when I didn't have a lot of energy because I was recouping from the weekend before. So that said, it's hard sometimes to let go of what has felt good in the past, especially when we don't know what's coming. So I think in a way it's an act of faith.
Thank you for your answer. Laura, there is one other thing I wanted to ask you. So I think it would be safe to say or to assume that these abilities that you had to connect, with the spiritual realms have been a gift in your life, and they have led your life to some wonderful things. Have there been times that you thought completely the opposite, that this is, I would rather not have any of that?
Oh my goodness, yes. So when I was younger, I just felt like something was wrong with me. I was crazy because other people didn't see what I did, or at least most of those in my life didn't. And I experienced some things that were quite intense. So I brought up that example of the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze's character going into Whoopi Goldberg's character and taking over. So I had ghosts that were trying to do that. Basically, they were trying. I could be what's called a trance medium, which is where a spirit comes in and communicates through my body. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that. I want my body for me. That is a strong boundary that I have. But because I have that ability, there were spirits that tried, and I had to learn how to have strong spiritual boundaries and energetic boundaries. So until I learned how to do that, it was very intense for me. But then once I learned to have those those boundaries, it was a game changer for me. And it stopped feeling like a liability and started feeling like something that was a good thing. But with any person, whatever your abilities or skill sets are, that's going to be the case. And boundaries, I think, are important no matter, what you're doing. It's just, it was extremely strong with me in this area with what happened when I didn't have those strong boundaries. So yeah, I think that's the main thing, is to know that anything that we have, it's like, it can be a double-edged sword. And I think psychic abilities in some ways could be like a chainsaw. Like, it's an amazing tool if you have a particular job that you need, but if you don't know how to use that, watch out.
I suppose it goes with everything that we can use it to our service and to service of others, or the opposite. Yes.
Yeah.
Laura, I wanted to ask you also some quick fire questions to start wrapping things up. And I know, and I said it earlier on, that this conversation inevitably would jump around from topic to topic. It's so the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
I think it's about improving ourselves and also increasing our knowledge. And I firmly believe in doing this all the time. This is a constant process. I believe if we want to improve ourselves and our lives, then we never give up learning. I never give up learning. And then I'm also always teaching, because I think it's a two-way street. I want to learn, and I also want to share what it is that I have learned with others. So I do that through my podcast, through my books, through my classes. And sometimes people are surprised at the things that I am taking classes on, because I, for example, will take a class on booking television and media, even though I've been featured on all the major television networks in the United States, and big television shows and national shows, international shows, worked with big celebrities. But that doesn't mean that I know everything. So that's a mistake. I think a lot of people think, even when they're an expert, that doesn't mean you know everything. We are constantly learning, and it's important to invest in that. And I think it's also, as we do that, it also is like this message of faith to the universe and trust of going to this next level, and that it will be returned to you. So I consistently invest in myself and my business, and I consistently am growing. So even this last year during COVID, my business grew a lot, and that's possible. And also to align yourself and take classes with and get in the room with those who are where you want to be. And that's really helps you visualize it for yourself. And I believe there's also an energetic component where you are absorbing, even energetically, that sort of imprint or blueprint that they are providing for you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Oh my goodness. Just be who you are. Don't be afraid to be different and go for your dreams and go for them early. I spent the first, I would say, 10 years of my sort of career, so, out of college, doing all the things that you're kind of supposed to do. And I'm putting that in quotes, it was like advanced degree, house check, husband check, fancy job check, all the things. And I ended up miserable, broke, and sick. So I really feel that if I had pursued my passions and just honored my own abilities from a younger age, I would have had all those things sooner. Now, it's not saying that I regret it because I learned a lot along the way, but I mean, I love my life now, but I believe that the sooner we all do that, the faster and better everything gets for us.
Absolutely agreed. And let's say you could wave a magic wand and change something in the world as it is today. What would you change?
I would ask for people to be more open to these kinds of things. And I hear a lot like, well, I believe in science. Well, I believe in science too. I'm a very avid believer in science. And I studied science a lot as a child. And then as I got older, I was a little turned off actually by some of this kind of cynicism and things being closed down, obviously considering my abilities. But there's more and more people studying these things. Like there's the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which studies psychic phenomenon scientifically, like using measured tools and, well-respected methods of study. So I would like for people to be open. And I even true science is about discovery, and it's not about rigidity, because we're constantly realizing that theories that we had, scientific theories, were incorrect and onwards. And I'll give an example of how I think this is going to play out as it relates to psychic phenomenon. So I believe that I'm receiving waves of some kind. There's some kind of waves or frequency that I'm receiving as a psychic medium. And I believe that they're there. And at some point we will have tools that will be able to capture these just like I do. And since the Big Bang, there have been radio waves. I mean, they were around then, but it wasn't until the radio was invented that we were able to receive them. Like they were there, but suddenly we had a tool. And in fact, the inventor of the radio was put in an insane asylum because the people didn't understand at the time and they thought he was schizophrenic. He said, I'll be able to capture sound through the air through this device. And they were like, that sounds crazy. You're going to an insane asylum. And actually his friends had to campaign with the head of the asylum, and he was released, and then he invented radio. So, I think there's going to be all kinds of these things that are developed, and we'll confirm many of these things. So just to have an open mind. I don't expect other people to believe what I believe because they don't have my perceptions. They don't experience the world that I do, but be open-minded and, don't believe everything. There are a lot of charlatans out there, but at the same time, just be open and see what unfolds.
Thank you. I believe science is catching up, and that gap, shall we say, between the spiritual world and the scientific world is bridged. It's merged constantly. And I think there will be a time where science will be able to measure and explain all those things, because it is about discovery, as you said, and measuring. And once you discover something, then you'll be able to measure it. It's there. We just still haven't been able to figure out how to analyze it.
Absolutely. And I'll share a brief story because I think it's fun that relates to this. So several years ago, I had a client that came to me, and I can share this because he's talked about it quite publicly. So I don't normally talk about, clients publicly, but he has. And he heard me on a podcast as a guest, and then he listened to my podcast, and he listened to all my podcast episodes, and then he booked a session with me. And he was at that time a partner in a Silicon Valley tech firm. So very analytical. And I said to him, you're going to work in sort of spirituality, and your job is to help make this mainstream, and you're going to write a book about it. And eventually this is going to be your work. And he didn't say it because he's a polite person, but I could just tell that he was like, no, that's totally wrong. And then a year later, he wrote the book, and a year later he released it, and it was a bestseller. And this past summer, he released his second book, and he resigned his work, and he now does this work full time. And his first book is called An End to Upside Down Thinking, and it is on the scientific aspect of consciousness. So that there's more and more opening to this, and there's more people studying this, sharing this. And I think people hear it from him that might not hear it from me, for example, because he was so respected in his career. We went to an Ivy League university and graduated cum laude, and then he really can approach this from an academic and scientific perspective. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't want to do that, but I'm so glad that people are doing that. So his name is 𝗵𝗂𝗿. He has a podcast, and his book is An End to Upside Down Thinking.
Awesome. Laura, do you want to share with us how can people connect and find out more about you, and also about you're about to launch a new book very soon? So
yes. So I love podcasting, as clearly you do as well. And the ebook is already out, but I'll be launching the hard copy within a few weeks. And that book is called Rock Your Podcast: How to Launch, Grow, and Monetize Your Show. So I believe podcasting is a wonderful way to get your message out in the world, and also to connect and share and learn. And it's so amazing because it's a free platform, right? So if you want to learn about things, it's wonderful. And it's really helped me also develop my path by connecting with incredible teachers and speakers on my shows. And then I help others by sharing that information with them, as you do. So that book is already available electronically. The hard copy will be available soon. And then I'm working on the audiobook right now. And then I have 7 other books that are on the psychic and spiritual realm, if you want to check those out on Amazon or your local retailer.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of any social media or website, I will put it in the show notes, but share it as well.
Sure. So my website for my psychic and spiritual work is healingpowers.net. If you're interested in my classes on podcasting or book writing or coaching, that's powershour.biz. And then my Twitter handle is at that Laura Powers. My Instagram is Laura Powers 44, the number, the digits. And then I'm on Healing Powers at Facebook.
Fantastic. I'm always very big on giving some kind of an actionable item to the listener, and there have been quite a few earlier on during our conversation. But if you were emerging from this conversation to give to the listener one actionable item they can take with them and implement straight away or tomorrow morning, what would that be?
Say, think about what it is that you really want in your life. Big things, big life things. Ask the universe, angels, again, whatever you believe is there to help you. And then start really looking at it like, what can I do to bring this in? It starts with prayer and intention, and then even taking little steps. If you take a little step every day, you will get far. So just to break things down, take a little step, whether that's reading a book, taking a course. And then the other piece of that is constantly letting go of anything that isn't aligned with that vision for yourself. So whether that's an unhealthy relationship, whether that's belongings, belongings have energy. So when we hold on to things that aren't aligned with us or where we want to go, it can kind of hold us in place energetically. So these little things, if we do this daily, even a little bit at a time, I'm a big believer in the compound effect. So just like with money and interest, that sometimes the little things you do, you put a penny aside a day or whatever, these little things you do over time, it's massive, the changes that will result. So approach your life that way and really big things will start to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Thank you. I want to thank you, Laura, for a truly intriguing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing what you did with me and the listeners. I want to wish you all the best with your life and your work. Any last parting words from you?
Yeah, my pleasure to connect with you. I love to hear from people. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or would like to connect. And thank you for doing this. I feel like podcasters are lovely people. I'm very grateful for podcasting. So thank you so much for helping me to connect. And I know you said from Greece. I love Greece. It's amazing. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and rate it on Apple Podcasts, and also share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to find out more about what I do and gain access to exclusive content, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. The link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/PDM group. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.